Hi friends, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel. So the early reviews of the Cybertruck have been hitting the airwaves, and I want to give my reaction to them. First, I'll say that there are multiple reviews out there, right? So I saw this guy. Honestly, I thought he was a fanboy, so I would take this one with a complete grain of salt, right? You may not be a fan of this guy, but I didn't care for it. This particular one, I didn't care for it either. Just being honest with you, I didn't care for it. This was another one out there, and you'll see a lot of these kind of things where they're like touring around the factory, the showroom, etc. I felt like a lot of these sort of social media people are essentially, what's the right word to say it? They want to make good relationship with Tesla, so they don't want to say anything that really tick Tesla off, which I completely get. That's just part of doing business, right? Don't tick off people who invite you there, and it's a great opportunity for their channels, etc. So I just would take it with a grain of salt. So the only review that I would actually recommend for anyone to watch or interested in this stuff is the one by MKBHD, which is right here. I like the guy. I generally trust what he says, and he's fairly objective, which, my opinion, is what you want in a review. People who like give you their honest opinion without like, oh my God, you have to buy it. Oh my God, don't buy it. Just give you honest, pros and cons kind of stuff. So anyway, I want to kind of go through some of the stuff that he said, and I'll share my thoughts as well. First is he was saying that the Tesla Cybertruck and then the Ford Lightning 150 are kind of the same size. So I thought that was pretty interesting. You guys can see it right there. The Ford's a lot taller though, but that's the difference there. The side mirrors can be removable, and that's up to you whether that's important. The one thing that really, and I said that's up to you, so you guys can let me know in the comments if that's an important thing. The thing I thought was interesting is like the hubcap stuff. I've always thought at least on this thing, it's like it's just really ugly, the tires and the hubcaps. It turns out, I guess this is for aerodynamics, so you can get essentially more range if you put these things on, but you can take them off if you want. He took them off, and I still thought they were ugly. So I thought that was interesting. And if there's a like engineering reason why you would want it in this way, if you get better range like that, so be it. But just aesthetics, I didn't think it looked great. The big thing that's really important, which I've been thinking about quite a bit, and people on the channel have come on a lot as well, is basically the overall design. It's very triangle, square, however you want to say it, but the sharp edges, I think is a real concern. Now, for some people, if you're preparing for the zombie apocalypse, or the robots taking over the world, or maybe it's gonna be the apes, who knows? This is the perfect vehicle. Well, I won't say perfect. This is a great design for that, because perfect vehicle, you really want spikes in the front of your car and stuff like that. But I guess you can order the spikes later, right? But honestly, guys, the sharp edges, like the more I think about it, and when even Marquise Brown was like really pointing it out, I honestly think it's like a dangerous design. I'm just giving an honest opinion. Like I don't think any reasonable person can say, hey, I really want the front of a car to be like a knife, or I really want the front of the car to be like a pointy triangle kind of thing. Because it was fascinating. We were on our way home just today after lunch, and I was just like was really noticing the designs of all the cars on the road, and I was just like telling my wife, yeah, like pretty much every car out there is round, and it's not by accident, right? I just think a pointy car isn't great. Now, it's true in the past they've made pointy cars. We used to do that all the times in the 50s. And in fact, it's funny, if you look back at a lot of the old interiors of cars in the past, it's like pointy objects everywhere, right? Which obviously, in a modern world, if you're driving a car and you get in some sort of collision, you'd rather have an airbag and not essentially a pointy object in your car. But yeah, they made this thing very, very aggressive. Now, I bring this up because people have mentioned on the channel that these kind of design, right? You guys can see it's like really pointy, and it's like it's steeled, and I give it down that you can't necessarily cut yourself, because I guess they've treated the edges that you can't. But people have said in the channel that this kind of thing will never fly in Europe. So I just want to mention that it may not be street legal there. That's a real possibility. Obviously for Americans, you don't care what they do in Europe, but for Tesla as a car company, right, you would want to be concerned. So I think that's a very real concern. The other one concern about this, I'm just giving an honest opinion on this stuff. Marquise Brown has mentioned it, but I've read it other places as well, that the steel is really hard to press and very hard to make, right? Because it's like very stiff. And I have a hunch, or well, a very good guess that the vehicles they gave out to reviewers, are like really, really refined, perfectly, handmade, all these kind of things. and that it's going to be very difficult for Tesla to, mass produce this kind of thing. I mean, this is the way you would make the cars. And I understand. I get it more, right? Like all the fanboys like, oh, but Chris, they could develop all this new technology and they got this great way to make it and stuff like that. Maybe, guys, maybe, but that's just marketing hype. I think it's going to be really tough to make these things en masse. And I think you're going to get a lot of panel gaps when it comes to production, or they might just not make that many. That's possible. So if you're a collector or something like that, maybe the early adopters will end up, having a great investment because there's so few of these that actually hit the road being in perfect shape. But I think that's going to be a real challenge. And also, to be fair to Tesla, if they do pull it off, if they're able to, put these steel cars together and there's no panel gaps and they're all perfectly, shaped, etc. Fantastic. But I think it's a real serious challenge. I just wanted to bring that up. So sharp edges, the material, I think real challenge for them. Also too, Marquise Brown was talking about the canopy and the bed of the truck, that kind of stuff. So I guess it's like 6 foot and you can see it from the video here. You can get on top of this thing. Now, the funniest thing was, and there's two things I want to mention here with this, is that one is he was saying, oh, Tesla told me I need to demonstrate this function that I can stand on top of it, etc. And this sort of reminded me of how this game is played. So even though I like Marquise Brown, I trust him, generally speaking, but he still wants to have a good relationship with Tesla. So there's things that they'll allow him to show, and there's things they probably say, yo, don't show. So I want to mention that in all the reviews that I have seen, unless there's one out there that I haven't seen, no one does any off-road stuff, right? And so if they're trying to sell this to you, and this is what all the early ads in the premiere event was like, yeah, this thing can, drive in Antarctica. This thing can drive on, in Mars, essentially. If you watch it, that's what it was. It was like an ice environment, like a desert environment. But no one actually test drove it in that kind of environment. So I wanted to point that out. So it's not legitimate review if you want to sell it for that kind of vehicle, which they clearly do, but they don't let any reviewers go off-road at that thing. So that's important. So I just want to mention that, like with the Marquise Brown one, he's even like, hey, they told me I should test out this thing and I did it. He said it's got you can stand on top of it and it can hold 300 pounds. And so that kind of reiterates back to when I told you guys in the marketing of Tesla, in my first video where they showed 3 people in the tent sitting on the roof, I was like, there's no way 3 people are going to be in this thing comfortably. and it turns out I'm probably right? If 300 pounds is your limit, 3 100-pound people? I mean, come on. I could see 2 people on this thing, I guess. Whether or not comfortably, who knows, right? The one thing I was thinking about though too, and guys, I like cars a lot actually, is Fisker. And I mentioned Fisker, and I want to show you guys this here, is that if you remember, they had a solar panel roof kind of thing. And I always thought that was a cool design. Now, whether or not, it actually works to great effect, who knows, right? Who knows? But I felt like thinking about the, Tesla Cybertruck and sort of this, they try to sell it to you as being this cool camping thing, all that stuff like that. I think they missed a chance to really put some solar power stuff in this stuff on the roof. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. I was just thinking about that when they were showing this bed design. So, just a thought. Because one of the things too is that, when they were talking about the car and design and stuff like this, there were some kind of really weird quirks. This one was a really big quirk for me. So they got this rear window. You guys can see this is the rear cab window, right? And the thing comes up, and basically when it's closed, you have no visibility in your back end. It's only through the camera. So I understand there's a lot of cars out there, sports cars generally, they have this design for basically no rearview mirror, and because who needs to look at the back end? But me personally, I take safety first. That's just me personally. Other people just want to go fast, and that's fine. So I'm uncomfortable with that. But yeah, if you figure out a way to solve the whole rear view thing, so be it. There's a more storage underneath, which is funny. Marquise Brown's like, hey, you could do put your beer in there and have a water cooler, etc. That's fine. But there was a big thing that he mentioned, and every people mentioned as well: no spare tire, no spare wheel. And maybe for you that's fine, right? For me, for any car, not just the Tesla Cybertruck, just for any car, I like to have a spare tire. if I'm saying anything crazy, please let me know. But I think actually, my understanding though, I don't think any of the Teslas maybe have the spare tires, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong there. He said you can order one extra that you have to pay for, and sort in the bed, etc. But I don't think that's, I guess, and who knows? And it also be fair to Tesla, maybe there's lots of other newer cars out there don't have spare tires. It's a possibility. You guys can let me know if other brands have that thing. But when he mentioned that, I was like, for an off-road vehicle kind of thing, if you want to be rugged, etc., get the spare tire. if theoretically you're driving in places that you're gonna have put the car to the test, get a spare tire. He tested the sort of, how can I say, the canopy thing opening and closing. He had a little problems with it. My feeling with this sort of like anything electric just means another thing that can break. That's just my opinion. That's how I grew up. But some people are fine with power everything. That's just and I get it. A lot of things are power windows and everything power. I totally understand. But just for me, my personal opinion is like, it's just another thing that can break. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think it's a great design either, too, for being a work truck. I felt like the storage capacity looked pretty narrow to me. Like, and then there it is, a sample right there. So, when people are trying to say, hey, this is practical work truck, etc., I'm not seeing it. And my overall opinion of this thing is it's a sports car. I treat it more category of sports car. You get it for the aesthetics. Maybe it goes fast. Maybe you feel cool, that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily classify it as sports truck or as a work truck, but you can use it for, sporting events and have fun, show off to your friends, stuff like that. When I look at that, it just doesn't seem like large capacity. Now in the future, though, to be fair to Tesla, maybe that they will release, some sort of like bigger canopy thing, so you can like, put in things upright, that kind of stuff. Like, just theoretically a horse. Maybe you could put a horse in it in the future, just theoretically, right? Like a higher canopy thing. So I thought it was pretty low. So again, it felt like sports car to me. Moreover, that's the power thing. And then here, the other big standout thing to me was the door handle situation. Now I've been in Teslas before. I've driven Teslas. I think they're fun to drive, but I've never liked their door handle designs. I've never liked it. This thing as well, and it depends which part of the country that you live, right? So Marquise Brown was saying that Tesla told him it'll work if it's got like an inch of ice or lower. You can just still tap it. I don't know, who knows. And then this weird design, to me it was weird, and you guys can have your own opinions, but like you tap it and then like you grab the door, so there's no handle like that. I don't know, I can see it right there with my own eyes. I just feel like I'm gonna cut myself on that thing. That's just how I felt. I was like, okay. And because he even talked about like it's kind of heavy, and I also thought about too with like the back door, just any of these doors, because it's all steel. Like, man, mobsters are gonna have a heyday, hurting people with this thing. That's what I thought. So I didn't like their door design, and I questioned the use in winter. Moreover, actually, yeah, he talked about too. He talked about the fingerprints going everywhere. I can totally see that, right? So all around the door. So I think that's kind of ugly, just to be honest. If you guys disagree with the fingerprint situation, you can literally see the fingerprints in the, where the button is, and also around the door. I think that's just the way it's designed. There's no door handle. So it's interesting when you see when someone sort of breaks traditional design, you can kind of see, oh, okay, that's why we have door handles, right? Because for that kind of stuff. So yeah, fingerprints I think is kind of ugly. I'm not crazy about this sort of, cyberpunky font, for logo, but that's a small thing. It's not a big thing. The front trunk or the frunk, you can put a couple carry-ons in there. So it's pretty small, but it's serviceable, I guess. It's fine. And the thing is, too, this is real. If you are indeed going to the airport, you're just going to throw stuff in the back. I don't know if you would actually use this. Now, to be fair, though, I guess the reason why frunks are this sort of size is good for groceries and just sort of your daily tasks. It's probably more convenient than, having stuff roll around. I didn't see anywhere, and there might be, I might have missed it, but, Tesla may sell you like those nets. You guys know the nets that you put in like your SUVs and stuff like that, to where you can have groceries and stuff like that. But that's the front. I mentioned the rear view mirror before, actually, but we'll talk about this. This is just something that all the Teslas are like this. I've never liked having this center console thing only. I've never liked it. So if anyone who's driven these things, you'll know that. I just want to show you. This is exactly what it looks like. So basically, when I drive, I'm used to having the stuff right in front of me, all the info like literally in front of me. But with the Teslas, it's all to the center, right? So you have to look to your right and down. Your eyes are off the road. I've never liked that. I wish they would do some sort of HUD design, and I'd be curious for the fanboys and fangirls out there, because I know they're out there. Like, do you disagree? Do you say, Chris, I don't need speedometer right in front of me. I don't need to know anything right in front of me. I like having it to the right and to the the center console, but I've never liked it. I mentioned the rearview mirror thing before, so there's no rearview mirror. There's no camera, like you could have a screen where the rearview mirror would be. That's not there. So the center console, there's no rearview mirror, but it's it's like a video screen in the middle. I just don't like it. So, and you know, you can have your own opinion, but I just never liked that about the design. Now, in terms of the actual design of their software and the UI, I think Tesla's like software itself is pretty cool. I do like the way the cars look on the thing. I like the way it functions. I like their maps. I like all that stuff. I like finding the supercharger stuff. I think that stuff is cool, but I just don't like the location of it. I don't like not having a rearview mirror, and I don't like, even if you did have a video camera, and let's say the video camera quality is great, which here I can see it's great, I don't want it in that location. I don't want to take my eyes off the road and look down. So, you know, I wish that, and more car manufacturers would do like a HUD thing to keep your eyes in the road. Some companies have done that. I've seen one because I've been in the Ioniq. They have that kind of thing. It's cool. I can't remember if the Polestar had one, because I've driven that one, and then I've driven the BMW as well. So I've seen other EVs, but I hope more manufacturers go focus on safety and not necessarily just aesthetics. The other thing too I want to mention is, you know, the drive quality, etc. So from none of the reviewers that I, you know, saw, again, they didn't go off road, and Marquise Brown, when I was watching him driving, he didn't like look thrilled and happy to me. He just kept talking about like, I don't know where the front of the car is. Where's the nose of the car? And I felt kind of uncomfortable with driving in. And then the other thing that I want to mention is I've heard other reviews that this car, chances are, and no one really mentioned, but I just, you know, won't want to say my concern until I get to drive it myself. You know, I'll tell you the truth on it. But, you know, the center of gravity and like how high is it above the ground and how does it handle, etc. I had read that before, and again, no one's really mentioned it, but it may have this sort of roly-poly action when you take curves, so that might be a thing. I'm not into the current steering wheel that they have there. I can see it for myself, but I have to try it, to be fair, to you know, give you an honest answer on that thing. And you know, it's how can I say? Some people. Oh yeah, one more thing: the windshield wiper. So I personally think the windshield wiper is really ugly. That's just my opinion on that thing. It's a unit wiper. Yeah, you can see it there. He's demonstrating here, etc. And it's funny because he had the same concern that I have. Like, in winter, is the thing going to function? Just, it's one singular windshield wiper, and just think about the ice and the snow that can build up on that thing. So, you know, for you guys who are Tesla fanboys and fangirls, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, what do you think about the singular windshield wiper? Is that what you want in a car? Is that cool? Yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. The other issue which I think is on the positive note is that I guess it's got like a really, really big windshield. He was saying is the biggest in the auto industry. So theoretically, visibility should be good in this thing, right? You won't know till actually in it. He was saying though that the dashboard was you know, very, very large. It felt kind of strange. I've been in cars like that before where it just feels like the dashboard keeps going on forever and ever. So me personally, I don't like that kind of experience, but that's just me. Now the actual looks of the Cybertruck, I'm giving my honest opinion. I don't mind it that much. I'm not in love with it, but I don't mind it. I don't hate it or anything like other people do. It's like other people on the channel, they just assume I hate it, but not necessarily, not for me. But when I do look at it, it feels like a military vehicle. So I don't really want to buy a military vehicle, but I don't hate it as much as other people do. I do think the back end's kind of ugly when I do look at it. I like oh yeah, I would just go back to the Fisker. It's funny because if you like the car I do like, I do something like a Fisker. So you know, my opinion. You're buying this for aesthetics. You buy it because you want to stand out. You buy it because everyone knows that you're driving the Cybertruck. I think there's going to be very few of these on the road in the beginning, so they're going to be a bit of a novelty. I think they're expensive, and I think you know, people is like, oh my god, he actually bought the Cybertruck. I want to come see it. So I think all that stuff's going to be true. You're going to be the coolest kid on the block for a little while. You know, whether or not it's going to be a great car for you over time. My opinion is I think maintenance on this thing is probably gonna be really expensive, but if you're buying it, you probably don't care about that kind of stuff. But I do think that's a thing. I think parts are going to be horribly expensive for this thing, especially trying to, like, if you get any dents or something like that, or any sort of damage, replacing whatever steel parts on your thing is gonna. But to be fair, you know, to Tesla, it's not just Tesla. A lot of the modern cars, the way they're designed, they're horribly expensive to repair, and for a lot of these things, you just get a new one. It's because they're so easily, you know, damaged. This particular one, though, is that someone wrote in the comments that because it's built like a tank, essentially, right, really strong, that it'll, be able to survive the wear and tear that they put on it. So I thought that's a reasonable, and I invited that person to, share more details on those kind of things. So yeah, if you need a tank, I guess this is for you. The weight of the thing is really, really heavy. And I mentioned that is because we had looked at test drive videos before trying to go uphill, and it really struggled. So again, none of the reviewers did off-road, so I think that will be a problem. And that's sort of my overall thoughts of this thing. I would have liked to see people use practical purposes, like putting canoes and boats, and like if you're going to be using it for that kind of stuff in there, to see how that works. But none of the reviewers did that kind of stuff. So there was no like payload checks on this thing. If it is indeed a work truck, put like work stuff in there and just kind of see how that works. The backseat is way bigger than what I thought it would be. So I think that part is cool. If you plan to take a family in this thing, I guess, I don't know if people are, but chances are you're probably just gonna have the seat up all the time and store stuff behind it. And you maybe put a bicycle back there. I think there's a possibility, but none of the reviewers did that. I would have liked to see more real world purposes on that kind of stuff. So if I get a chance to see the Cybertruck for myself, I will do that. It's not here in Korea, so we can't go see it. But I felt like Marquise Brown did a good job of showing it to you, and I advise you to watch his review if you want to see it. And I'm just giving you my honest opinion and reaction to that. So love to hear your thoughts on any one of these things, and I always appreciate your time. And I myself, I probably wouldn't buy one of these things, but it doesn't mean I would never buy a Tesla or anything like that. I think they're fine cars for what they are, but I also think there are other choices out there. Like I mentioned, the BMW, the Polestar. We'll see what Hyundai, if they're going to keep improving the Ioniqs, and we have yet to see anything from Honda or Toyota. But they may be in different categories completely. And moreover, let's see, what's Audi going to do, and Mercedes, and all these different types of vehicles. I have not seen electric Mercedes for my own eyes. I know Porsche is making this kind of stuff. So I would say probably the Porsche is probably like more of the competitor for this kind of vehicle, right? That's this, I think the same kind of audience wants that kind of thing. I think people who want this, they already know that they want it, right? They want something different. They want something tough, that kind of stuff. The main problem I have with many of the reviews or comments out there is when people act like this is something that, is going to be great for utility and stuff like that. I'm not seeing it. I just think it's something that people are going to be using as a status symbol, not necessarily something being used for its use value, which is a different thing. So, and that's an honest opinion on that, right? Which is fine. Like, I think it's more like if someone says like, hey, Chris, I'm buying a Lamborghini because it gets really good gas mileage. I'd be like, what the F are you talking about? But if someone says like, I buy a Lamborghini because it handles well, it drives fast, and like, I think it's cool. And they're like, okay, fine. That's great. So that's my opinion. Like if you're buying a Cybertruck because you think it looks cool, and you think it's going to be different than everything else, great, go for it. But if you're trying to convince yourself that like this is the best camping vehicle and work truck of all time, I'm just not seeing it. But I do get the people who want to like be in a tank, and they want to destroy other cars, and they want to have as many angles and sharp knives as possible. I get that. So that's just an honest opinion on that thing. So anyway, please share your thoughts on this, and if you have any other things, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Cybertruck in winter, and what you think about the doors and the windshield wipers and all that stuff that we talked about, and what do you think about the lack of rear view mirror in the center, and are you okay with the center console? I don't like it, but maybe some people are fine with it. I just personally don't like it. So, and I think that's reasonable. And again, I always try to give a reasonable thing like this, and to me these things are just cars. I don't get too emotional about it. It's a car. I drive lots of different cars, and I tell you I like that car, I don't like that car. It's just a car. And if a brand comes out with a car that I like, then I say, hey, I like said car. So and also too, if I were to buy a Tesla, it'd probably just be one of their cars are fine. I just probably wouldn't get this one. That's my opinion. So anyway, thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next video.